Caitlin Cybulski, thank you so much again for being a part of OV Boss Babes podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Caitlin, enough of this imposter syndrome. You have every right to be here like every other business owner, but it's so funny because so oftentimes business owners, I should say, and entrepreneurs and just even GMs will message me and say like, am I really a boss babe? Like, I don't feel like I should be here. And I'm like, you have every right to be here. You are leading a team, you are making powerhouse boss babe moves, and you are beyond successful in all aspects in your life and your career. And so I admire you so much. So thank you so much for coming on again to chat with me all about your industry.
Thank you.
Caitlin, I want to just hit this home right from the get-go. Let's talk about death. How did your parents talk to you about death when you were young?
I honestly couldn't. You had sent us these questions and I couldn't remember necessarily. So I called my mom and I said, hey, how do you remember talking to us about death growing up? And she actually said, I wish I would have talked to you more caringly about death. But she said it was just everyday life. So we didn't make it necessarily a big deal in our household. Life happens, death happens, and we acknowledged when somebody passed away and we did what we needed to do, but also then your kids still needed to get fed and the bills still needed to get paid and all of that kind of stuff. So it was just a fact of life in our household.
How old were you when they had that conversation?
I think it's been all of my life. So in my head, there was never a significant loss in our family. But in retrospect, and as I reflect back, we've had a lot of loss in our family. But now in my industry and doing what I do, I never lost a parent and I never lost a sibling. And that's what would have been significant to me. But we lost a lot of other people who were significant in our lives. They just didn't get labeled significant for whatever reason in my mind. Um, so our whole lives, we've been going to visitations, we've been going to funerals, we've been supporting our neighbors and our friends with their losses. So it's been our whole lives.
Yeah. My perception has evolved over time, specifically becoming a single mom and more so having a child with a disability, a severe disability who I always try to think to myself, like, I've got to get a will in place now more than ever because heaven forbid if something happens to me, I don't know if I have another parent that I can fully rely on. Um, and I always say that like it's such a almost a morbid concept, but I'm almost like, if I die, I hope my daughter dies along with me because if she were to die, heaven forbid, before me, she's gonna get lost in heaven. I don't know who's gonna look out for her and where to go. But it's an important and impactful conversation I think that we need to have and really start preparing for this because you just never know when that time might come. How has your perception, though, of death and preparedness evolved since stepping into your role?
I'll be honest a little bit, those who cannot do teach. So I'm probably the least prepared of everybody, but I've also seen enough to know that there's no good way to die. There's not, nobody's prepared enough. Everybody still just has to go through the motions. You can think you're prepared, but there's still steps to take. Everybody still has to go through it. And grief is still grief. And we hear that a lot. And I don't think that anybody is as good as a mother to your children as you would be. So even if you had people in place, you hope you never have to utilize those resources, right?
Caitlin, what initially drew you to this type of career? Why did you want to eventually become a funeral director and get immersed in the space?
it all kind of just evolved. Things just kind of the snowball just keeps going, and then you end up where you are, and you don't exactly know how you got there. So when I was little, I wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a minister, and I was very involved at our church, which also meant confirmation class for us. So when I was in grade 9, I did confirmation class, and with that, we did a tour of the funeral home, which seems kind of crazy to some people, but it's actually fairly common. We do tours at Malcolm, Deavitt, and Binhammer Funeral Home for confirmation classes on an annual basis. And our confirmation class did a tour of our local funeral home. And okay, the offices and the selection room where the caskets were okay, standard things. But I was really intrigued by the preparation room where the embalmings take place. And obviously, there was no bodies in there, but there
Yeah.
was instruments and chemicals and machines and things like that. And I didn't realize it myself that I took a keen interest in that, but my mom noticed that. So, really encouraged that direction. So then when I was in grade 10, I did careers in civics and delved into that a little bit more, as well as I took a business course and got to know a little bit more about it then. So then in grade 11, I did a co-op
Yeah.
placement
Yeah.
at the funeral home. So I always encourage people to do a co-op placement, and almost on an annual basis, we have a co-op student at the funeral home as well. So that's kind of my I really love that for them because that's
Yeah.
where I started, so I really hope I can be inspirational.
And you are, and I have to say this that you are, Caitlin, because I saw that a girlfriend that I went to school with, her daughter, Livy,
Mhm.
is working now, well,
Ah,
co-oping
yes.
at Malcolm and Devitt and Binhammer, and I have to say, she was very proud of that moment. And again, that's an inspiration and a really incredible moment too, because she took her picture and shared it on social media to say Livy is now going to be stepping into this co-op position at Malcolm Devitt and Binhammer Funeral Home. And I thought, and I commented and I said, she's working with a great team of boss babes. And it's just really incredible maybe to see Livy's journey, to see where that might go,
Mhm.
and if she might even end up pursuing this a path similarly to you.
Absolutely. We love having co-op students,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's helpful and they see where they wanna go, and they really want to pursue the funeral services career. Sometimes we have co-op students that come in and they are not looking to go funeral services, but more into forensics and things like that as well, so it's just a stepping stone, and sometimes they come in and they determine that that is exactly what they don't wanna do, so I think it helps
Mhm.
to navigate that rather than spending the time and the money and going to school for it.
How did you work your way up to becoming a funeral director, Caitlin? So you started off as a co-op student, you relocated to Pembroke. What did your journey look like from there?
So I was a co-op student, then I went to Humber College in Toronto, and I became an intern. So you need to do an internship to become a licensed funeral director in the province of Ontario. So that's how I ended up coming to Pembroke. 1 year internship. That's all I needed in Pembroke. Met a boy 18 and a half years later. Here I am, never left. I then became a licensed funeral director. And during my second maternity leave, I told them not to change anything while I was gone. My first maternity leave, so much changed. And I said, please don't change anything while I'm gone this time. I wasn't even gone a week, and we found out we had new ownership.
Mm.
And within that year, I didn't know if I was coming back to a job or not. We had some staff changes, things like that. And then they put in a call for a managing funeral director. I never wanted to be a manager. I just, I'm the youngest of 4 girls. So I'm used to just following everybody else's lead. I love to be part of a team, but not necessarily the lead of that team. And so I didn't think I fit the bill. I didn't think I had the credentials to be a managing funeral director. But when I did the interview, I think that my passion for the business, for our team, our building, and the families that we've served was really came across, and that I didn't care about climbing a corporate ladder. I
Mhm.
cared about the integrity of our business. So it again, it just snowballed, and here we are.
Mhm. Now, I want to unravel the intricacies about this profession, Caitlin, because it really is unpredictable what a day in the life looks like for you. You can go anywhere from having meetings to sleeping overnight on the couch at the funeral home, which I remember like looking back in that conversation, I was like, "Excuse me, what?" Like,
Mhm.
that is what you deal with, but I think that our initial conversation really opened up my eyes as to how unpredictable and unknown every day looks like, even off the clock.
Mhm.
So, tell our listeners and our viewers what that looks like for you.
You never know. So we generally plan that when our team gets in, we start at 8 o'clock, and so nobody knows that, so don't tell. So we start at 8 o'clock and we have coffee as a team. So, and that's sometimes to delve into what happened overnight, because sometimes part of our team went out overnight or spoke to a family overnight. And so we want to make sure everyone is on the same page with that. And sometimes it's just to chat as a team about our personal lives, what we did last night, what we had for supper, which we just enjoy that connection. We're a group of 4 women on a full-time basis, and so we enjoy that connection. It also shares some insight into, okay, we were up all night with a teething child, or this happened or that happened. So we can kind of tell whether we're coming with 100% today or not.
Ooh, I like that.
And then the rest of our team can kind of compensate or direct from there. Um, the phone usually starts ringing at 9 o'clock, and the door starts going off at 9 o'clock. People know doors are open at
Mhm.
9, so then we hit the ground running. We have usually an agenda of what's going on, if there's a funeral or a visitation and what that looks like, what needs to be set up. And although we work as a team, we all have our roles within that. So we all kind of start going in our opposite directions to make sure that everything is taken care of within our wheelhouse.
Mm. I really like the fact that you guys all kinda come together in the morning just to have lighthearted and easygoing conversation, because what a way to kind of enter a field that can really be depressing and emotionally draining. It takes a toll on you every day dealing with that kind of level of sadness. And so to be able to come in and I love that you said, knowing everybody's levels. How much effort are we going to be able to put in today? Because our own personal lives, everyone's got their own shit going on, right?
Yep.
So I think like just kind of having a little meet and greet coffee and
We
hash
need
everything out.
coffee.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
definitely
we
need
need to be
coffee.
caffeinated.
That's
So
true.
that's what kickstarts our days.
Oh, goodness. Now, what would you say, Caitlin, is the hardest part about your job?
The hardest part about our job is not necessarily the job itself. It's to keep work at work and to not bring it
Mhm.
home. Because when somebody has lost a loved one, that is consuming their entire lives. And we want to be there for them every step of the way. And so we generally drop our own families to serve that family. So we don't call the people that we're helping clients or customers, they're families. And
Mhm.
we actually call them our families. We're not related to them. We might not know them at all, but they become our families, and they let us into some of the most vulnerable aspects, and we find out all of the family dynamics. But then we make promises. I'll get you that obituary notice by the end of the day. I'll reach out with the website details or the live stream by the end of the day. Then when we're done that meeting, there's another family waiting for us.
Mm.
So then we take our laptops and we head home, and we answer texts and we answer emails. We put our kids to bed, we get our laptops open, and away we go again. So you can't just leave work at work all of the time, because the family needs you. They need you to finish the task that you started, because this is all consuming of their lives. They don't care that you have a family at home necessarily. I'm sure they're conscious of that. I'm sure they
But
really
not in
feel,
that moment.
not in that moment. And we understand that. So that's really one of the hardest parts of our job, I think, is to try to time management ultimately is the hardest part.
Caitlin, are you speaking for yourself, or are you speaking about the entire team bringing these additional tasks home?
I think our whole team.
Okay.
We work with a very dedicated team, and I think that the funeral service industry in general is a very dedicated industry, and you're part of the community. So a lot of the times you do know these people, whether it's intimately or not, right? And you want to serve them as best you can. I think that we're all kind of cut from the same cloth, and I think that our team in particular want to serve those families, but also want to make sure that we're helping each other.
Yeah.
Like, we're just teammates, but we're friends, and we know that if I'm not doing part of my job, then you're gonna have to pick up the slack on it.
Mm.
So, um, as a leader, I probably don't demonstrate or lead that very well, and it shows. It's kinda demonstrating that that's the expectation. It's not,
Right.
but it's part of our job, unfortunately,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Now, how do you separate, like, and put boundaries up in order to focus primarily on your family? Or, because it just sounds like this is a lot, and and I know that deaths happen every day, but not necessarily in a small town. They're not every day, so to speak, and they could be planned in advance and everything too. So it's not like you're bringing this home every day and doing all the work every night. But are there boundaries that you're able to set to separate yourself to say, I'm done working by a certain time. I mentally and emotionally need to take a minute to not answer emails or do anything. How do you do that?
It's way easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of industries. I think that with especially our phones and technology, we are required or there's an expectation that we are available 24/7. And that's a lot of industries, not just unique to our
True.
industry. I've heard a few of the boss babes that all say that. Um, like in the hairstyling, you get a text it on a Sunday night. Well, I'm not, you can't answer that, but we're required to. So we
Right.
do have nights that are on call and we have to be available to drop whatever we're doing
Yeah.
and go. That's
Right.
a requirement. Um, there's actually a video out there somewhere of my daughter when we were off on COVID, and she was maybe 2, and she was answering her play phone, Malcolm, Deavitt, and Binhammer, Caitlin speaking, and it's so cute, right?
Yeah.
But also, that was her life.
Yeah.
She was growing up seeing that. Our kids see that when my phone rings, everybody's quiet,
Yeah.
but they don't know any different.
Right.
So that's a little bit sad, but also I think it's teaching them that we need to be available, that there are people out there and it's everyday conversation for us, you know? Somebody just lost somebody they love and mom has to go and our kids they don't know any difference, so
Right.
they're okay with that, but we do have to set boundaries. We're very lucky we do have an answering service that answers the phone for us and triages because when my kids are in the bathtub, I can't really just
Yeah.
step out and answer the phone. That's not safe, so we're very lucky to have that resource in place for us to help triage that. Um, but then we try, when possible to check in with our kids I try to make a policy, no phones at the table,
Mhm.
which again is easier said than done. When you can
Totally.
hear the emails coming in and there's an obituary notice that needs to be proofed and posted, but you have to try really hard because then the kids will, "Mom, can you put your phone down?"
Yeah.
And then the guilt sets in, but
Yeah.
you try.
But I think that that level of respect comes, like you said, across all industries, and I think that's a good reminder too, Caitlin, is that we all deal with that. We all get those phone calls where mom has to step out and everybody has to be quiet, and to teach that level of respect and courtesy early on,
Mhm.
it's important if you're like, when you're a working parent,
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner or a working professional, it doesn't matter. It's like when those calls come in, it and I think that this is actually, like, another level too that I've noticed with my sister and her husband. They're fantastic at tag teaming, and like, my sister's an entrepreneur and my brother-in-law is a police officer, and so the hours are shifting, and there's times where they're not always there together as a family for dinners, and they have to tag team for pickups and drop-offs, and their kids don't know any different,
Mhm.
and it's no different than for us, like, having to wait until almost 5 o'clock to get picked up by mom and dad during the week. Like, it just becomes normal.
It's their norm,
It is their norm, and why should we feel guilty about it, you know? But we do.
but we do.
That's moms. Now I wanna dive into the hidden stressors though, Caitlin, that comes with your type of role. As I can only imagine the variety of situations that you guys have to deal with that are, emotionally draining and are a perfect recipe for burnout and stress and compassion fatigue, which we had talked about last time. How do you separate yourself from grieving families and traumatic events, especially when we're in a small town? We might know this, well, obviously know of the situation of what happened, and even the constant worry that someone close to you might pass tragically.
So we do I'm not worried about people around me passing away tragically. I know that that's a possibility.
Hmm.
That's the norm. I think everybody is familiar with that or like to think so. You got to live every day like it's your last. We've heard that forever, right? Because that's
But it's
what
different
happened.
because you see all these different circumstances of people dying coming in. We don't.
Valid, true, I guess. Um, to separate from that, I think we don't separate. We jump with 2 feet. So the closer you are to somebody, or the more you do know that family, the more you know how you can support them. So if you already know their kids and your grandkids, or you know what they're interested in, you can then start pointing them in different directions. We try to get to know every family, but when you already have context, then you can say, "Hey, what if we, um, I really know that your loved one was a woodworker and they primarily dealt with oak. What about an oak casket or an oak urn?" Because you already know that, so you can present those options to them to cater to that. And we really take pride in that, I think, or helping out a little bit more with the families that we know. But it can be also exhausting because we give everything.
Right.
When we've had big funerals for or that are or over a few days and things like that, then our whole team either needs the day off or we're all going to end up sick because
Mhm.
we've literally given it our all.
Right. Now, how are you and your team reshaping the model for hospice care? Because I feel like this is a conversation and just even an area that is often overlooked. We look at people around us and I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that there is just such a level of appreciation for support workers and retirement home staff that are looking after our loved ones that are seniors and in palliative care. But what does your role look like working with those types of people?
We try to do all of the things all of the time. So we're kind of trying to collaborate a lot more with those places because long-term care and hospice is an amazing resource, and to be able to educate so people who are utilizing the services of hospice are getting more one-on-one, and they're getting more education to be an informed consumer and things like that. So they also offer a lot more grief resources afterwards as well. So we've been sharing a lot through Hospice Run Through and Madawaska Valley Hospice because their resources continue on. And so we want to collaborate a lot more with them for the educational purpose that when you're planning your end of life care, talk about pre-planning your funeral services and things like that as well. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done with the collaboration, but it's definitely something that we're interested in
Mhm.
doing.
Now, getting back to the burnout aspect too, Caitlin, you work alongside a team of boss babes. Like it's all, am I right? It's all women that work with you,
We
right?
have some great men kind of behind the scenes that support us, but
Okay.
primarily we are a team of women. Our 4 full-time staff members are all women, yes.
How are you looking after your female staff? Because I mean, I am such a girl's girl and ever since I became a mom, I just have such a massive appreciation for women and moms and the amount of work that we take on. And I'm a little biased in the sense that I just don't have many male role models around me that do step up to the plate to look after their kids. And so, how do you handle situations where your female staff do have to look after their kids or have to call in and they're not able to be there? And also look for signs of burnout and stress when maybe they're having a mental health day that maybe they should be taking the day for themselves.
Again, we don't acknowledge it as much because we don't put ourselves first. We always put our families first. So we can recognize that in each other and we call it out and we'll have a quick chat about it. We laugh almost every day to the point where we cry because that's what we need. We don't need to sit around and share our woes all of the time. That happens too. We've had some ugly cries, but typically we just need to laugh, and that in itself, like, laughter is a great medicine, and sometimes not that misery loves company, but to know that you're not the only one in that boat. Your kid didn't sleep last night? Yeah, mine either. You're going
Mhm.
through that? Yeah, I did too, or I've been in that phase. So our kids are all at different phases right now, for those of us that do have kids, and although we might be not going through it all at the same time,
Yeah.
the ones who have older kids are going through it and they're like, yeah, when you go through it or vice versa. So we collaborate on that a little bit, but also we just are built differently we don't acknowledge it the same way as we should maybe. So maybe we're not dealing with it in a healthy manner, but
Mhm.
we just keep on trucking along. Sometimes we just, oh, you're feeling like shit. Yeah, me too. High five. Let's go. Like
Yeah.
we will actually high five on our way down the hall and keep on going.
But what's the expectation though, Caitlin? Show up and take time for yourself after everything's done? Or
It's not the expectation that we have of each other.
yeah,
It's the expectation that we have of ourselves.
I see.
So I wouldn't wanna take a day off if I was feeling like crap because then that means somebody else has to take on all of my stuff,
Mm.
and that's a me thing, and I would never expect that of
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
else. If you're having a bad day, take the day off. I'll pick up your slack,
Yeah.
no questions asked. But they operate the same way I do. We are all
Okay.
so very similar,
Almost to a fault.
almost to a fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's hard.
It is hard.
That's so hard because, especially in this day and age where we're trying to remind ourselves to take that step back, practice self-care, take those sick days for yourself, not just for your kids, take that vacation time, use it before you lose it. And especially when we're putting others before ourselves, that can get emotionally draining. And then you almost start to feel a little resentful too, being like, when is it my turn? And it can be really hard and difficult as a boss too, of a team to overlook that and say, you know what? Our families come first, but right now, in order for us to be there for our families, you need to prioritize yourself to come first. That can
Again,
be
easier said
challenging.
than
I
done. My
know.
therapist is like, "Oh, when should we meet next?" I'm like, That there's no time in the
Yeah.
schedule for that."
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of back and forth. Um, we try, and like, it's the end of the year, and our boss has reached out to us, "Hey, guys, everybody has holidays left. When's everybody taking holidays?" And we're like,
I don't know.
I don't
Probably not.
we don't have time for holidays.
Yeah.
There's also the reality that if you take a week off, your inbox is now full.
Right.
And then there's the chaos of dealing with that when you get
That's
back.
across again, like you're saying, all industries, all careers,
Exactly.
anything.
So we all feel that stress, and
Yeah.
so how do you deal with that? Plus, we also like to hang out with each other. We enjoy being at work, and so when you're not at work for a week, you've now missed what happened all week in somebody else's life
Yeah.
because you weren't there.
Yeah. 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 That's funny.
Looking for a place where business opportunity meets small town charm? Welcome to Pembroke, the heart of the Ottawa Valley. Here you're backed by a network of passionate entrepreneurs, local leaders, and city staff who want to see you succeed. From startup support to grant programs and business celebrations that spotlight local success, Pembroke is a city that invests in its people and celebrates every milestone. With hands-on support, streamlined approvals, and a collaborative environment, Pembroke is a place where businesses truly grow. Our Community Improvement Plan offers grants to support businesses through development, expansion, and renovation projects. Whether you're a new resident or business, we have the resources you need. And when it's time to recharge, you're within minutes from nature, adventure, and a lifestyle that doesn't make you choose between professional and personal. Join the growing community of entrepreneurs who call Pembroke their home. Visit choosepembroke.ca and discover how we can build success together.
Now, I want to tackle the sensitive and often confusing topic of funeral etiquette, Caitlin, with a few rapid fire questions for you. So, traditionally, we've always been told to wear black to a funeral. But in 2025, what are we wearing? Are we maybe mixing some more neutral or darker colors in the mix?
I wear this, which is pink. So I also think there's no dress etiquette at school anymore, and it's a lot more relaxed in a lot of the professional, even with the military and the police and things like that. It's more relaxed. So I don't think there are rules. I think if you show up, that's
Mm,
what matters. Who cares what you're wearing?
I love that. Show up.
Show up. That's a
Don't
that and
worry about
that
what
is a
you're
lot.
wearing.
Today's day and age, when people just show up, that's a lot.
That's so true. That actually speaks much more value. That speaks so much more volume than what you're wearing. Who the heck cares what you're wearing? You're here. You took time out of your day to come and be with, like, show support for my dad or my grandfather when you could have been at work or you could have been doing who knows what else. That's such a valid
Showed up.
point.
And when I was in high school,
I love that.
somebody that I love lost their boyfriend. And to the funeral, she wore jeans and a hoodie because that's what he loved her to wear.
Uh-huh.
And people criticize that. Why would she wear jeans and a hoodie to a funeral? You don't know the context of that.
Mhm.
Or now it's customization. How can we customize this? You're part of a team. Everybody wear your jerseys. Or you love that favorite color. Everybody wear that favorite color to represent that individual. So there's sometimes some nuance to that. So don't judge what somebody's wearing.
Yes.
They showed up.
That's right. It's just funeral etiquette and the overall industry itself is just evolving as a whole, and I'm here
Mhm.
for it. I love that. What things should you not say to a grieving person?
So many things. So many things. Realistically, again, show up and sometimes shut up. The less is more. Something you shouldn't say is, oh, you can always try again. So, interestingly enough, people think it's okay that when you've had a miscarriage, an infant loss, or lost a
Mhm.
child, that you should be thankful for the children you do have,
Yeah.
or optimistic that you can try again. But yet, when a spouse loses their loved one, you're not saying, oh, don't worry, there's more fish in the sea.
Yeah.
No. So I don't understand that concept. And a lot of the times people are uncomfortable at visitations or they're uncomfortable around death. And they say things purely out of the kindness of their hearts. They truly mean the best. And it comes across to the grieving person terribly.
Mhm.
And when people are grieving, they have too much going on that their filters are the last thing they're worried about. So their reaction to that might also come back and match that energy. So I think less is ultimately more when what not to say at a funeral.
Well, what not to say, would you ask a family member what the cause of death was? Is that appropriate?
No, I don't think it is at all, and it happens all of the time. Ultimately, it doesn't matter whether a person died tragically or suddenly or a long illness. Grief is grief, and it is still hard and heavy, and they still lost their person. People think that because their loved one was sick, you saw this coming, that grief isn't going to hit as hard. Even the person who's grieving, it's like, my grief shouldn't hit as hard, but it's still hitting hard. So, what somebody died from doesn't actually matter. I mean, it can sometimes help support with resources moving forward, potentially, because there's specialized resources for death by suicide or
Yeah.
people who have died by medically assisted dying or by cancer. Like there's specialized grief groups for that, but that's not for the general public to know
I don't
or
think
to
it's
use.
I don't think it's appropriate for anybody. I mean, if the close family members wanna tell you, they will. And if they don't, then they don't. You're just again, show up and shut up.
Mhm.
I love that saying. Social media and the death of a loved one, even if it's family related, Caitlin, your grandmother, your aunt, your cousin. When is it an appropriate time to post and share the news? Or is it appropriate?
That's a really hard question because
Mm.
everybody grieves uniquely, and there's some people who really want that community support and they really want people to support them in that loss. Sometimes it's easier to put out a blanket statement on Facebook, this person passed away, whatever it is, and then that acknowledges it so that they think maybe less communication or less questions being asked. That can be extremely overwhelming for a family to have everybody wants to be supportive. The community wants to support you. But for the family, that can be extremely overwhelming. There is no right or wrong. Ultimately, I think you need to wait for the immediate family to share, if anything. And then when all else fails, if it is going to be public and there is going to be an obituary notice, share from there because
Yeah.
now it's already the people who need to know already know.
Mhm.
The arrangements have already been made, and then it can kind of go from there.
Mhm. What about bringing children to a funeral? Is there a certain age limit? Is it appropriate? Is it one of those things kind of like a wedding where maybe you should be asking? What do you think?
I think you need to know your own kids. Ultimately, I think that a visitation, I've taken my kids to visitations and I'm not concerned about my kids. My kids are going to ask questions. They're going to see the body and ask questions. They're going to meet the people and ask questions and we're here for it. We're open to that. I know my kids well enough to know that I'm not taking them to a 2-hour visitation because they are not going to last that long. They're going to be brats. So I'm not going to, for myself and for the family whose visitation it is, I'm not going to expose them to that. And the same with a funeral. I know my kids well enough that they're not going to sit still and pay attention. And I'm there either for my own grief or to support others. And if I'm trying to deal with my kids, then it's taking away from that. Um, Sometimes the kids need to be there because it is their loved one. And so that's great. I see sometimes families have a secondary loved one. So they'll bring their kids, and if they aren't able to stay, then they call in an auntie from another side or something to take them out. But there's like most of the ministers and the families are aware of your family dynamics, and they welcome that too, and they're pretty easygoing with it. But again, you don't want to take from the moment. When we compare it to a wedding, that's very valid. So we had no kids at our wedding except for our nieces and nephews. But I remember my nephew in the corner, and he was being distracting during my vows. And so I regretted that. So I think it's the same thing at a funeral. You want to make sure that everybody is able to be in the moment.
Yes. Now, when does the role of a funeral director or any members of your team, when does your role essentially stop with the family? Like, how many resources will you refer them to, whether it's therapy, somebody to talk to, like grief support groups, the administration side, lawyers, wills, like all that other stuff. And even the debt and even the disposition of the cremated remains. Like, when how involved are you guys, Caitlin? And then when do you guys essentially like stop your role for being supportive?
I struggle with that. I want to help everybody with everything,
Yeah.
but I specialize in funeral services. So then we make sure to delegate from there for therapists or grief support. We do have a great team of what's called post-service care, and it's a funeral director who supports families in notifying government agencies, helping to apply for death benefits, and um, anything that's in your wallet kind of thing. They can help cancel all of those things, utilities. So they help with that because I don't have the capacity to do all of that anymore. My skills are required elsewhere. So I would love to do that and see it all the way through. I just don't have the capacity anymore for that. As far as grief support and things like that, we have a Facebook page, and we try to share things on that because in the moment, when somebody's going through the thick of it, you hear it a lot. I'm fine. We're fine. It's fine. Yep. Here's some. They might need resources down the road when
Right.
when the dust settles a little bit and things start to sink in. And so that's why we keep continuing to share things on our Facebook page primarily. And because we are a small community, people come back. People don't understand that they'll drive by and stop by. Just I was
Oh,
just driving by, thought I'd stop in, and they'll have some mundane question,
yeah.
but they wanted to connect ultimately. And so one mundane question will sit for 2 hours and just chit chat about whatever. And we're not therapists. I'm not a grief counselor,
Right.
but they just needed somebody to talk to in that moment, and somebody who had context or
Yeah.
maybe knew about the family dynamics that were going on or witnessed what the cause of death was. And they know they can confide in you because
Mhm.
you're a safe space. And that's all they needed. They didn't need advice or consultation. They just needed to share whatever it was that was heavy on their heart that day.
Just having that human emotional connection, I think, is huge because I was listening to another podcast, Caitlin, where the funeral staff basically handed them like a pamphlet, or not a pamphlet, but like a little portfolio of all the different resources that they could access to. And they were like, here's everything that you need to take care of the will, for the estate, to basically close out their life. Like, we are now done, and here we go. Here's everything. And I'm like, but that's not personal. And to give all that to somebody in that much context and like this much that they need to do, oh my gosh, like, you're grieving, and now, like, we already understand that there's lots that we have to do to close off, especially if you are the power of attorney.
Mhm.
Like, holy cow, like, there is so much that you have to do. But it's like, just to have somebody just to be that listening ear and say, hey, like, I can tell you exactly, like, you don't need to do that now. How about you focus on this first? Have you gone home and taken a shower? Have you
Mhm.
eaten yet? How can, like, do you have somebody that you can kind of lean on for support to watch the kids? So you
I'll
can
be
sleep.
honest, people are quite often, when do we get the death certificates? And sometimes here they are, and sometimes I'm like, I don't have access to those yet. Because they're going to go and they're going to start doing all of the things.
Right.
You need to go home.
Yeah.
You need to drink water. You need to eat. You need to try to sleep just one step at a time. So I say after the funeral, I'll have that available for you so that they can break it down and do the tasks that are needed now rather than jump ahead, because quite often then they don't remember what they did or didn't do because it's just trauma based.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hand out those flyers and we're like, here's all of the things you need to do, but not everything applies. So my dad lost both of his parents within a couple of months of each other, and both of their estates were so unique. And they thought everything was organized, but there's still so much to do, and it's so different on a case-by-case basis. So what you need might be different than what the other person needs. So it just helps to kind of break it down and give them resources and triage where to go next, but knowing that you can always fall back. And I always tell people, I don't have all of the answers,
Yeah.
but chances are that I know somebody who might.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, let me know and we'll figure it out from there.
Now, Caitlin, in this day and age, I mean, as our economy continues to rise and things become more expensive, it's not cheap to die.
Nope.
And we're all having so many other things that we have to save for, especially like us millennials. Right now, we're focusing on maybe buying our next house. Maybe we're saving for our kids' education. We are saving for renovations. Like our insurance rates are going up. Like whatever the case, like there's always something.
Absolutely.
There's always something we have to prepare for. But why should we be preparing for the worst to happen for ourselves and make that a priority?
You can't be a doomsday person, right? But I think that it's to be prepared. And I think as a parent, we're always worried about taking care of our kids and what's best for our kids and planning for our kids. And our spouses too. So if anything happens to me, my husband's going to have to figure it out. And although he can figure a lot out, that's not his area of expertise. And so to have it organized just takes one less thing off his plate. And as a type A personality for me personally, that I know it's done efficiently, and I know that it'll be done my way as opposed to him having to flounder through it. And you can finance just about anything these days. Like you can get a TV and you can finance it over 12 years.
Yeah.
So you can basically do the same thing with a funeral. You can plan your funeral, find out how much it's all going to cost, and then you can talk to your funeral director about payment options and what that might look like for you and break it down over 5, 10, 15 years and pay it off that way as well. And I think it just allows you peace of mind, or I'd like to hope it allows you some peace of mind.
And I love what you said last time during our interview too, Caitlin, is that you kind of called me out when I said that we've got lots of time. And you're like, well, no, we don't. Like I could drive home today from Calabogie and get hit by a car and that would be it. And it's like, how soon though should we be preparing? Like now, right?
There's no time like the present, realistically, and you never know. But you can't always be fearful of it either. I'd like to think that you can just kind of get it done, set it aside. But with everything else you have to worry about, like we have to worry about daycare and we have to worry about everything else. So it does get put on the back burner quite a bit.
Yeah.
But people are always so thankful when their loved ones have prearranged and they come in and they say, oh, they already discussed all of this. It's already taken care of. There's still a lot of questions that have to get asked and a lot of things that we have to go through with the family. But there's just like a sigh of relief with that.
Is it safe to say that even if we have a note in our phone of a couple of our wishes that we want, per se, that, whether it be, I want my organs donated, or I want to be cremated, or I don't want to be buried next to Aunt Bethany.
Yeah. That's a thing. We have notes and files, but I think it's great to have an open conversation.
Yeah.
So you have sisters and parents, and I have sisters. So quite often we have a group text. We have a group conversation always. And I'll just say, oh, I saw this at a funeral today. I want that for my funeral. And I get a thumbs up emoji kind of thing. So everybody can yes, it's not official. That's definitely not official. But at least it helps your family have some guidance as to what your expectations are. Or in my phone, I have music for funeral. I'm like, oh, that's a great song. And I'll put it in my phone. But if you're in a car accident, your phone might be there too. So then it goes with you. So to have it at the funeral home, then it's a little bit more, even if it's just wishes. We have people that, I don't encourage this, but people that come in and review their funeral arrangements on a regular basis.
Wow.
Because they went to so-and-so's funeral and they saw that and they want that part of their funeral. So
Wouldn't it be interesting to see like a Pinterest board?
I'm
What
sure
you're
there is.
I'm sure there are too.
I'm sure there are. And I think that's the other thing too, is that there's a lot more social media. Like there's people on TikTok
Mhm.
and things like that are showing behind the scenes of funeral homes. And like there's Lauren the mortician, and she has a great TikTok page, and she talks about cremation and what cremation looks like, or what removals look like, and what the cot looks
Yeah.
like, and all of that kind of stuff.
And how nice is that to normalize it too?
I think it's great, and then it takes the stigma away, the scariness away, and it can help make an informed decision.
Mhm.
Oh, that's what they do. I definitely don't want that. Or that's how easy it was, or the unknown is a lot more scary usually than what the facts are.
Yeah. Caitlin, I still think it's crazy to me in this day and age looking at a funeral home and seeing a man's name on it. And I mean, call me a feminist. I mean, I feel like I am so much through and through, but I'm just like, I cannot see a man. I feel like I've just been so tainted by men this past year, but I can't see a man operating a funeral home with that same level of care and compassion and empathy that a woman can. I just and I'm repeating myself here. I feel like I have not had a lot of positive and empathetic and compassionate male role models in my life, and maybe that's a me thing I have to deal with in therapy. But I don't see that same level of compassion that I would with women. Why do you think that there are still so many men in this field, and do you think that women ultimately are gonna be taking over this industry in the next 10 years? Because I know that they already are.
We already are taking over, and I do want to throw some credit to men, because there are a lot of men in this industry that are so caring and compassionate, but then also have some areas that they're confined to. So for me to hug somebody is way more received positively
Mhm.
than if a man was to hug
Right.
somebody. And that's a stigma against men, and that's not fair, but it's more received well when a woman hugs somebody, whether it's a man or a woman. And men really have to monitor themselves with that,
Right.
and really have to be cautious of that. Whereas we kind of get, as women, free reign a little bit more with all of that. We do have to be cautious with it, but it's more acceptable, I feel like, and there's a lot less guard with that. But we're definitely taking over the industry, and um, there are still some really great men in the industry, so I don't want to throw any shade on them, but
Mhm. Well, I mean, it was really men that started this industry. Because I mean, it was men and their sons
mhm,
leading and paving the way, I think, for funeral directors back in the day, and they still are. But I do think that it's a growing industry that's really bringing on more women, and I do think that just that element of the compassion, the care, and the building of relationships, and you hit it home, Caitlin, too. I think that more things are able to be overlooked, like getting that warm hug and that embrace from you versus a man. I would, it might not be appropriate, or they might not feel that they're able to do that, which kind of sometimes is a good thing too, because it does set those proper boundaries and that
mm,
professionalism.
mhm.
But sometimes people just want that warm hug. Because
In a lot of cases, they do,
they do.
and it does seem warmer from a woman
Because
for
it's like,
whatever reason. I don't
my
know what it is.
feelings.
I think maybe it's just more whatever that is. And we really want to go the extra mile all the time, but there's a lot of men in that
Yeah,
too. So,
totally.
um, but
I know. I feel.
we are a majority, and I don't know what the why is. So that's a good question for society.
Yeah.
Why are we accepting more women in the industry? And
Or
why do
why
we
are
want more?
why are more women looking to step into this industry as a whole? Like, what and I think that that's why it's just such an interesting conversation as to why more women are looking into this field as an opportunity.
And I think too that the schooling in general has also evolved. So it used to be that you had to go to school for a year. You had to go to
Mm.
Toronto for a year, and more recently in the last few years, because there is a shortage of funeral directors in the province of Ontario, they're now doing it online as well. Because
Okay.
there's a lot of people that are parents, and you can't just leave your family. Bills still need to get paid. So you can still kind of work part-time at a funeral home and then do your online learning as well. That's a lot. It's a big commitment, but it makes it more accessible to anybody as well. So that's always, I think, another reason why. And now we also have a pre-planner course, which we never had. You were either in and you did it all, or you didn't do it at all. And so now there's different ways you can specialize, and I think that makes it a gateway a little bit. So we've had a lot of people who have gone into pre-planning, and it's evolved, and now they do it all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How has working in your field, along with having children, Caitlin, changed how you live your life?
I don't think it's changed how I live my life necessarily. It's definitely made my life more chaotic doing what I do and trying to have a family. And I think it's really opened my eyes to the conversations that I need to have with my children about death, dying, and grief. And it's it's hard because my kids, it's everyday conversation almost. Obviously, there's confidentiality and things like that. But when I have to go, oh, somebody's passed away. I also have to make sure that, like, anybody whose kids are, like, if you're a teacher or
Mm.
a you work construction, your kids talk about that or they play that at school. And so it's more open for my kids to talk about it at school. Oh, they died. Just seems normal, and for a lot of people, that can be startling. So, we don't protect our kids anymore necessarily because I was also a teenager. So I think that's scarier than being a funeral director. I've lived a life, so I think that's scarier than what I do now.
I actually was having this conversation with a girlfriend the other day too, being like, how did we even survive our teenage and like college years? Like, how are we still alive today?
And we made it through, and not everybody was so
Yeah,
lucky.
true.
Everybody was raised the same way. We just got lucky and we made it through. So I want to make sure that I give my kids the option or the opportunity to push their boundaries
Yeah.
and to mess up. And you just have to pray that they make it through because those are building blocks that's got us to where we are now. We did crazy stuff and we learned boundaries. I eventually from it. It took probably some trial and error, but I want to give my kids the same opportunity and just know that I'm always there for them as a backup that they can always fall back on their parents. I think my parents gave that to me, and that's probably how we got through sometimes, and I just had a shit luck.
Yeah. We have to take risks in our life and we have to be untethered in that sense with our kids to just let them be and just like we made it through and I like what you said too, not everybody is as fortunate and lucky as we are, to make it through to a certain point, but that's life.
Hmm.
That's just how life goes. And it's just unpredictable and we just have to, we can't live in fear.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Caitlin, you have been an inspiration since the moment I met you, the moment we first crossed paths. My family still speaks so highly of you, and we are always forever and eternally grateful for all the compassion and the level of care that you've provided us over the years during the passing of my grandparents. And I've also watched and reflected, I think, more so of our conversations, watching you on the socials, watching you as a mom, watching you as a businesswoman, watching you cultivate an incredible team, putting other families first with such a high level and sensitivity of care that you should be very proud of. I'm excited for the team that you're building. I'm excited for the women that are surrounding you. Um, I can get emotional talking about this, but I have such admiration for Sorry. I have such a level of admiration for you and the work and the maturity and the professionalism and everything you're doing. And I think that I have such a high regard for you and the important work that you do. So
Thank you.
you are a boss babe in my books, and you were a huge reason why I wanted you today. And I hope that our conversation today inspires a lot of people. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I don't think I get this emotional. But with that being said, who is one local boss babe that has inspired you throughout your journey in business that you'd like to recognize today?
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think it also the families that we serve. It's odd to us that we are create a memory for them, a core memory. But what people don't know is those families also create a core memory for us, and then maybe we don't remember everything about every funeral, but we remember those families,
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
one of them, and some of them a lot more than others, and we carry that with us every day, and we think about them. So that's the thing, they leave us, And we want to reach out to them sometimes. Where are you now? What are you doing?
Yeah.
How are they doing? And we can't. So we just have to hope that they're doing well with their grief journey. So once they're gone out of our doors, sometimes they are gone, and we want them to come back.
Yeah.
We can find out for our own grief journey because we kind of went through the thick of it with them. Um, Somebody who I would like to, there's so many boss babes I think you hear about all of the time, but Wild Grounded Retreats
Yes.
is a great resource for people. So as a working mom, you're supposed to do all of the things. You need to sleep, you need to drink water, you need to exercise, you need to get fresh air, you need to meditate, you need to go to therapy. Who has time for all of that?
Yeah.
I clearly don't. And so she has her retreats. So Julie Edwards has her retreats at her wonderful resort, and there are different themes. So they have a grief one, and that's coming up. And then they invite other boss babes to be at that. So there's yoga instructors and people who did meditation, Reiki, massage, that kind of stuff. So it's not just Julie, it's her whole team of people, her caterer, who is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then she's also a therapist who thinks very highly of things like walk and talk. So you don't sit in her
I
office.
love that.
You hit the trails. What trail do you want to hit today? And it's an hour, and you walk. And at the end, not only have you poured out your soul, you've also exercised and built up some endorphins. And so you can be crying on the trail, and then you get in your car and you feel fantastic because you've got fresh air and you've walked, and it feels so it's all encompassing. So she's definitely a boss babe, and she's been through
Yes.
some life.
Yeah.
And so she's not speaking from the other side of an office. She's speaking from her own life experiences and can help shape her therapy from that.
And how nice is that to have somebody that just knows what it's like to go through shit
Mhm.
and to be that supportive and listening and intentional, that intentional listener to be there for you. I think that is just the perfect boss babe to recommend in this episode. So, Caitlin, thank you so much again for being a part of OV Boss Babes. Thank you for just letting us take a peek behind the curtain and being honest and challenging me a little bit back into my perception and my thinking. I always appreciate that because, yeah, I just think it just makes for really impactful conversation. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.